All right, let me know if you guys like videos like this in the future. You haven't even seen the video yet. Hey, let me know if you like it. But anyways, we're doing, or at least I want to try to outline the jungle path for Bel'veth. So this is after the 13.20 changes, and that changed how the jungle, how tanky the jungle is, how much damage you're going to take from it, and then how the jungle camps will continue to power up the longer the game goes, as they now scale a little bit past the mid game. In comparison, in 13.19, the jungle camps dealt significantly less damage to Bel'veth. Bel'veth also had a stronger E in the early game, and also they were not as strong into the later stages of the game. Okay, so what does that change for Bel'veth? Well, it makes it where now if she does a full clear, then you're going to be very much at like no HP whenever you exit into the scuttle, and that can be a problem for you. But even if it's not, by the time that you finish the scuttle, your options for the play are then very much limited because you have to gank mid or top lane within, let's say, a 25-second window before your first camp would be respawning. Because if you leave this camp up, then it's an option for the enemy jungler. Just as like an example of if you were to full clear, then you can really run into problems. So what I think is better suited for Bel'veth now is that she does a 3 camp into a play. And what are those plays? Well, the first step is that you're going to enter the river. And from the river, if you have this position, then you have options. You can gank bot lane, you can invade the enemy jungle, you can gank mid lane, or you could fight for scuttle. If you start on bot side and you enter the river, you could also cross through mid lane, and then you have those similar options, invading or ganking top lane, just in different spots. And with that, Bel'veth has a lot of time to play with, because if you do this sort of path where you look for the plays, then you give up the opportunity of farming these camps for quite some time until, say, the scuttle is spawned. Because if you go back to the camps, then you end up with the same problem as full clearing, where you're going to be low HP, and by the time you clear the camps and then look for the play isn't there, your first camp is respawning, you run into a lot of problems. So instead, you look for these plays and then do those plays, and afterwards, the next goal is going to be the scuttle crab. And if you do the scuttle crab, then you can then go back and full clear. So if we started on raptors and then went into red and then did golems, and then let's say we gank bot lane and that's successful. Okay, nice. And then we leverage ganking bot lane by invading the enemy jungler with our support. And then that goes good too. Nice. Okay. And then we do Scuttle Crab. And then we do Scuttle Crab. And then if you go back, then you can clear these camps. And whenever you're clearing these camps, your first camps will be coming up. So the raptors and golems will respawn as level 4. So they'll take you a little bit longer to do. But if you clear them like this, and you clear all the camps, 1, you'll hit level 5, and then 2, you'll spend your HP during this. So as you finish the golems, you can then reset and get back onto the map through the base gates into very opportune positions, right back into the river, in which you have your play options once again. You can invade, you can gank bot, you can gank mid, and then same deal with the top lane. You can invade, gank mid, or gank top, something like that. And that's a very like basic and efficient jungle path for Bel'veth to take, and one in which she avoids the full clear problem, where 1, she's going to be too low, 2, she loses the opportunity to make plays, 3, like she gives up her early strength in a way, so you run into problems there. And then, God, I like it. It's not even a shame really that she can't full clear, because the champion was so egregious with the full clear, with the stride breaker, doing nothing and then winning. Anyways, so if you do that, your Gromp will be your next respawning camp. So if you reset into the enemy top side, let's say with a pickaxe and a longsword, then you can try to fight them for their raptors or golems. If you gank mid, you can then go back to the golems. If you gank top through this, you can still go back to the Gromp. But then if you do a play bot side, then it really needs to work out, or you need to have a successful invade into the enemy's jungle to get their minor camps because you're giving up the Gromp and the Wolves, at least initially. So you do have the options to reset to either side with all the camps being down, all of your camps. But you need to keep in mind that you're trying to get back to this in one way or another, which could look something like this, like invading the enemy jungle, going through mid, and then getting back to your respawning Gromp. The second scuttle will spawn RNG like either left or right side, so then you also have to react to that. Alrighty, so those plays are done. You reset. Um, well, you do the plays, and then if no plays are there, then you could do another full clear. Or if you just do like 1, 2, 3, and then maybe a buff, then you'll be level 6. And you want to be level 6 by about 8 minutes so that you can fight for the Rift Herald. If you're on the Rift Herald right as it starts, then you're in a pretty good position. You really don't have to worry about the dragon in the early game, because if you have to solo it, it takes you quite some time. You give up opportunities for the attacks in the enemy jungle or the lanes. But the only way you really want to earn the dragon is by ganking the lanes and then moving your bot lane to the dragon to then basically take it, reset, and then get back out onto the map, do a couple camps, hit level 6, and then fight for the Rift Herald. Something like that can be totally fine. If you have full control, nothing really matters at that point. You could do a dragon and walk all the way into Rift Herald if you have enough XP and whatnot. And then after you do the objectives like this, if you still have advantage, or if you have form, you can start queuing over the walls. So that's your time to invade the enemy jungle. That's your time to get better position. So let's say we queue over this wall, and then we flank around here, and then we queue over this wall. You can avoid a whole lot of wards in this sort of area, and then attack the enemy mid laner, for example. You can do very similar things into the top lane. And if we were to reset to the bot side, you hit the blast cone here, you hit the blast cone here, you'll waddle on through here. You can queue over this wall, queue over that wall, and you're hitting very similar things where you get to have these flank positions on the enemy whenever you have form on Bel'veth. And with that, you just have a natural advantage. So whenever you have form through getting 1 kills or 2 the objectives, then you're able to flank the enemy more often. You also just have better fighting in the enemy jungle because you have so many dashes. You have 2 forward dashes and then 2 backwards dashes. So even if a fight looks bad, you can always leave it. And with the Rift Herald, you get the extended form, and maintaining that gives you 1 more time on the map to do all this. And then 2, the longer you maintain it, you also get a spawn minion. So if you get a successful play in the lanes, then you also get a snowball like that. All right, so that's what you do in the early game. Now, come mid game, you can do the solo lanes are going to be in the side lanes, and then your bot lane is going to be mid. So then it's time to look for something like this. Hopefully we have form, and you can do 2 camps in one side of the jungle, and then try to help the side laner either attack the lane or take these jungle camps from the enemy. All the meanwhile, as you're doing these camps and you're in the jungle in this whole area, if anything happens in the lanes, then you can react to it, at least on the side that you're on. So in this case, we'd be bot side, aka an our red side and the enemy blue side. And if anything happens, then I can respond to it. You don't have to look for anything preemptive every single time. So that's a very nice thing. You're gaining resources as you're going, and then if something happens, you probably have the better position, because if something happens, it's the enemy team attacking your teammate. Therefore, they're pressing up and up the lane, and then you have a better flank position. Anytime you're coming in from the flank, 1, the enemy's going to have ability spin, 2, you're going to have a better position, and 3, you probably farmed on the way there, so you're hitting a whole lot of good things as you go. And then if any of these plays are successful, that will help you earn the remaining objectives, which would be the outer turrets, the dragon, the second Rift Herald, and then as you progress in the game, you'll be playing for Baron. Now, a 20-minute Baron, you only really have to worry about if your team is shit stomping. Around 24 minutes is when you can start playing for the real Baron, in which if you get a pick anywhere on the map, or if you kill 2 to 3 people, especially the carries, so mid, top, or ADC, then you have a better position on the Baron, and then can try to fight for that. Don't worry too much about having the ideal Baron or having an ideal thing around it. Just remember that you're looking to play for picks. So if you can flank the enemy. If you can get into their jungle and then flank them, get a pick on the enemy and kill them, then you can try for the Baron. You don't have to stay on the Baron whenever you start it, but if you start the Baron, the enemy will come to you. So get 1 to 2 kills, start the Baron, let the enemy try to attack you, attack them, kill them, and then take the Baron and kill, you've killed the entire enemy team, ideally. So that's like your roadmap to winning Baron, and then Baron is your way to win the game. So whenever you have form, I would say you have 3 options. You can side lane by yourself. This is totally fine whenever you're super strong yourself, or you can play on the sidelines. So you're playing on one side of the jungle, again, waiting to react to whatever happens in the lanes, or you can push with your team. Especially if you're weaker, this is a pretty good option, but you can also set up plays with your team. You can be sidelining sometimes, but then once you enter the lane, you spawn the funny minions that then help your team push. So you do want to be in a lane to spawn the funny minions, but you also want to be on the sidelines to look for a pick. So if your team is, I think just play it by ear, actually. I don't think we really have to outline anything there. So that's how we win with Baron. Now, what about whenever the enemy team's losing? This is the fun part about Bel'veth. You don't have to worry about anything. There's nothing to do at all whenever the enemy team is, or whenever the enemy team's winning. They're pushing into you. You're trying to farm your jungle camps in the meantime, and you can't be in the lanes. So all there is for you to do is wait in the sidelines, which is going to be very defensive, very shitty positions, and waiting for the enemy to attack your team. Once the enemy dives your team, then you come in from behind and try to attack them. There is no defense, so you either flank when the enemy attacks or you side lane. And side laning usually sucks. So you're just waiting for the enemy to throw, and then putting yourself in these positions is your best opportunity. Because you have to clean up. You can't really spend yourself for your allies and it will work out on Bel'veth. So whenever your team's losing super hard, don't worry about it. It's not important. What's important is that you took these proper steps all along the game to then end up in a position where you can actually carry. That's the only way you stop the enemy from winning. And sometimes you can't even do that. So, alrighty, that was my Bel'veth jungle path guide. Let me know what you think. Alrighty, thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. Peace.